1995 was a great year for me because that was the year that I decided to stop being so shy, break out of my shell, and start to try new things. Like, for instance, at the beginning of the year, I took adult tap dancing classes, inspired by Donald O'Connor and Singing in the Rain. Now, true, on the dance floor, I looked less like Fred Astaire and more like those hippos in Fantasia, but I had a good time. Right? You can picture it, can't you? Second, I was going to grad school, and I decided that summer to sign up, because I'd never been to Europe, to sign up with for a class trip to go to Paris. And that would be exciting. I'd go with the other art students. And the art department had arranged for us to stay at a dormitory in the Latin Quarter next to Luxembourg Gardens. So it would be beautiful. It was a great old building with wooden floors. When we arrived there, the best part was it was a women's dormitory, but because it was summertime and there were so many empty rooms, they allowed me and my roommate Kevin, the only men on the trip, to stay in the same dorm. So being a tourist, I would get up in the morning, and because Luxembourg Gardens was right there, I'd walk out, I'd watch the city wake up, I'd greet the day by walking through the gardens, I'd come back, I'd have a crepe. Kevin preferred to sleep in. Now Kevin I had met on the airplane, didn't know him before. I was just coming into grad school, he was just graduating, this was his parents' graduation present to him. He wanted to sleep in, so by the time I got back around 10, he'd just be waking up. And he would get dressed, and then he'd sit on the bed and he'd start reading this book of poetry. And I'd say, "Hey, Kevin, you want to go out and see the Musée Picasso or go to the Louvre?" And he'd say, "No, I think I'm just going to hang out here." I said, "Okay." So I started to shut the door. He said, No, don't shut the door. That's part of my plan." I said, "Your plan?" And that's when I found out that Kevin had come to Paris for more than the art and the culture. He wanted to have a Paris romance. So he's explaining the plan to me, which was this. We're in a woman's dormitory full of French students. He's a student. He'll sit there in the room on the bed with a book of poetry with the door open. A young French student would come walking by and say, "Oh, quelle surprise! An American!" And ooh la la, he is a reader. And Farah Jacques, he has a book. And then she'd walk in, they'd start talking, "Oh, poetry, ooh la la," right? And they'd have a romance. It was a dumb plan. And I pointed out to him, Kevin, there are living and breathing women, French women, all over Paris, at the galleries. He said, no. See, out there, I'm a tourist, right? But here, they know I'm an art student. You know, I can meet them. I'm not just some dumb guy visiting France. And I myself being a dumb guy visiting France, I went out to the museum and said, "Okay, good luck." Now, this was a problem for me because he kept this up for the first few days, and I needed to get him out of the room because I had my own dumb plan. See, so what I did was I talked to some of the females on the trip, and I said, "Hey, could you ask him to go to the museum some afternoon? I'll get him out." And they said, "Sure." So one day he agreed. He went out, and I thought, perfect. That afternoon, I'll have the room to myself, and then I can practice. Because I had gotten really into the tap dancing, and I had brought my tap shoes along. But I was too shy to ask for a room to practice in this building with this great wooden floors. But our dorm room was pretty big. And I could practice in there, and I wasn't going to tell Kevin I wanted to dance in the room. So when he had gone, I could lock the doors, pull down the shades, get out my mixtape, right? Put it right in. And so I hit the tape, and Van Morrison starts to play, and I'm doing some simple steps. I'm doing some shuffle ball change, right? And I'm just going across the room and just lightly tapping, but then it hits the blues, and I start tapping a little bit harder, right? And I'm getting into it, and then James Brown kicks in, and that's when I started doing cramp rolls. Now, cramp rolls are when you tap first the front taps on your shoes and then the back, and you go pretty fast. It sounds like horses' hooves. And, James Brown was singing, and I was feeling like a sex machine. So, I was dancing, and then there came a knock at the door. And I thought, okay, well, that's it. Kevin must be back. I turned the music off, I slipped the shoes underneath, I opened the door, and there's this perturbed, pretty young woman. And she says something that I heard has flippity flip 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 silence. And I said, what? And she changed to English, and she said, why are you making these noise? And I was not going to say I was tap dancing in the room, so I said, I played innocent, and I said, I don't hear any noise. And she said, you are making animal noises. And I said, no, we don't have any pets. And she said, you stop it. And I said, okay, I'll stop making the noise we don't hear. Merci beaucoup. And I shut the door. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm too noisy to practice in here. I'll put away the shoes. I went out. Came back an hour later, and there's a big commotion in the hall. And I see Kevin and a bunch of our fellow students, and they're all gathered around, and Kevin is so mad. I said, what happened? Well, it turned out that a couple of minutes after I left, Kevin came back. Came in the room, the phone was ringing. He picks it up, and it's the head of the dorm. The lady had reported us, and she says, you must stop making noises or you must leave, right? Kevin does. He says, I'm not making any noise. I just walked in. No, you must stop. We were told you must stop making noise. And he says, I didn't make any noise. I just walked in. She says, you are yelling. Obviously, you were the noisy one. You stop, right? Kevin hangs up, and he's like, I can't believe it. I'm being mistreated. I don't get my romance. I hate Paris. I'm just going to go nuts. I said, Kevin, what are we going to do? He says, no. They called me. I didn't do anything. They called me to complain. Tomorrow, I'm going to call and complain. Hey, the lady next door is breathing. I can't sleep. You need to kick her out, right? And the other students were like, wow, we're going to have an international incident. Wait till I tell Mom. This is so exciting. So finally, I said, look, I got to calm things down. Look, so I explained to Kevin. Now, see, they all believe Kevin made noise because Kevin looked like a guy in a hair metal band. He had poofy hair, leather jacket, sunglasses. Remember, this is 1995. This was still a cool look, right? And I looked like, me, like an angel. So I said, look, Kevin, it was me. I wasn't going to tell him I was dancing. So I said, look, I was just playing my music too loud. We'll explain. And so we went to the head of the dorm, and she made us apologize to the woman. So we met with the woman, and it turned out that she and Kevin made a connection. They both laughed at me. They both agreed I was too noisy because apparently I snore. And they got along great. They went out and thought, oh, great. Well, Kevin's going to have his romance, right? He's going to have the poetry and wine and music, everything he dreamed of. But as soon as he started that, the woman told him, no, I do not want the philosophy. I want le sexe. Did she get le sexe? Well, all I can tell you is that night, through my wall, I heard animal noises, but I didn't dare report them. C'est la vie. Thank you.